Throwing some of these out. All kinds of papers in here.
It's just a little treat. I bought treats and put them in those little bags for you guys.
Oh, you did this?
I did, yeah, yes. Everything is maple syrup.
She liked them treats.
Yeah, I bought everything separate and I just bought the little bags and just a little treat from me.
Were you ever hear from Dorothy? Who you
Who I replaced. I pass her street every single day when I go home.
You know, I see her in MLK Boulevard.
Oh, you do?
I mean, the MLK's parade.
Yeah.
And sometimes she waves, and other times she totally ignores me. It's the weirdest thing.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I saw her one day.
Yeah.
I was coming to work, and I didn't know who was in front of me. And these two people, I saw this car crash into this other car, like a fender bender, not like something super major, but a fender bender. And the lady in one car gets out, and this other lady gets out. It was Dorothy. Her and the lady were having words.
You know, I don't.
Dorothy hit the lady.
When she retired, I gave her a couple of really nice gifts. A
Yeah.
gift card. I never heard another word from her. And I don't know whether when she left, if she was angry about something or.
I don't know.
You never knew? Okay.
No, I know. I spoke to her maybe like once after she retired, like maybe like the first month, and then I've never.
He just walked away and said, "I'm done."
No, yeah, I never. Like I said, I saw her that one time, and I think I saw her at one of the parades too.
Yeah.
But in 10 years, I've maybe seen her twice.
Right. Well, she retired.
So-
I've seen her at the MLK parade.
Yeah, yeah.
She's a
Really nice big
You
heavy
bring the
metal
laptop.
stapler.
You didn't update.
Oh, she did.
She did.
I don't see that.
I used to go into her office and use it all the time for like big documents.
We have
So
one.
when she squeaked that day,
That's where it went.
the public works now.
That's funny.
They'll make good staples.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the City Commission meeting to order. This the 28th day of May 2024. We will have a roll call by Vanessa Castillo, invocation by Apostle Willie Mincy, and a pledge of allegiance. Would you please stand if able?
Oh. Roll call.
Roll call. I did it again.
Okay. Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here.
Shall we bow our heads? Kind Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for the gift of this another wonderful day. Thank you, O God, for life, health, and strength. Thank you for the many blessings that you have already bestowed upon us. Thank you for this city of Winter Haven, the commission, and all of the people that have gathered here this evening for the meeting. We ask, O God, that you would be with us, God, that you would open eyes that we might see and understand and do the things that is right and just for our city. We thank you, O God, for the mayor and all of the commissioners. We ask that you would bless, O God, and encourage and uplift. Be with us tonight, Lord Jesus Christ, and I pray that whatever be done, it will bring glory, honor, and praise to your wonderful name. And we will tell you thank you for it all. We ask it in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, commissioners, would you join me, Dr. Mason?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. We have
bear with me one second as my computer does its thing here. We have two presentations this evening. First is a proclamation, and then we'll have a presentation on our actuarial valuations for our pension plans that our CFO will present. Your proclamation this evening is in recognition of LGBTQ plus Pride Month. It reads as follows. Whereas Winter Haven, Florida is part of a global community in which people of diverse cultures, races, creeds, genders, and sexual identities must work together toward peace and understanding. And whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, other, or LGBTQ plus residents, students, city employees, and business owners within Winter Haven contribute to this vibrant, innovative, culturally inclusive, world-class community and to its diversity. And whereas advancements have been made with respect to equal rights and protections for all peoples, including the LGBTQ plus community throughout the state of Florida and the United States. And whereas members of the LGBTQ plus community still face ongoing discrimination based on their innate status, resulting in immeasurable human tragedy, loss of life, community isolation, and abuse. And whereas PFLAG, Parent, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays of Polk County, envisions a world where diversity is celebrated and all people are respected, valued, and affirmed, inclusive of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. And whereas the Lakeland Youth Alliance provides a safe space for LGBTQ plus youth and their straight allies of Polk County. And whereas to celebrate the richness and diversity of Winter Haven, Polk Pride, PFLAG of Polk County, and the Lakeland Youth Alliance conduct various cultural, educational, and entertainment activities to focus attention on the importance of acceptance and respect for diversity among us. Now therefore, Nathaniel J. Birdsong Jr., Mayor of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, does hereby proclaim June 2024 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the City of Winter Haven, Florida, in honor of freedom from prejudice and bias in any form, and in recognition and praise of those members of our community who constantly fight the battle for equal treatment of all citizens, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, race, color, creed, ethnic origin, or religion. In witness whereof, he is hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Winter Haven, Florida to be affixed this 28th day of May, 2024. Signed, Nathaniel J. Birdsong, Jr. Attest, LaTanya Harris, Deputy City Clerk.
Good evening. Thank you on behalf of Polk Pride. We just want to say thank you for recognition of inclusion for all. And we also would like to invite the staff and everyone else to participate in the Polk Pride in the park in Lakeland on June 15th from 10 to 3. Cool. And have a good time. Thank you.
I'd like to come forward for a picture with the commission. Thank you. Commissioners, if you want to return to the dais, I think your next presentation does not involve any photos or presentations other than what the CFO has to present this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. It is my pleasure to present the actuarial valuations for the city's pension plans. So, and I hope to keep this as short and as interesting as possible. The city has 3 pension plans. The general employees pension plan, which was closed to new members in November 20th, 2017, but it is still active. The police officers pension plan and the firefighters pension plan. So on April 24th, Doug Lozen, he's an actuary with Foster & Foster, He provided the valuations for each pension plan. He did a fantastic job. The presentation was interesting, it was understandable, it was comprehensive. And in the fact sheet, the second page, there's a summary of each pension plan and the factors. But the most important thing that Mr. Lozen said was per Foster & Foster, our pension plan contributions meet the reasonable determined contribution for actuarial standards. So our pensions are sound. The not so good news is each of our pension plans, the expectations didn't meet assumptions, so we're going to have to contribute more this year. Those assumptions were the average salary increase exceeded assumptions, so the actuaries, I think the assumption was 4%, and it came in salaries at 11%. The investment returns, the assumptions were over 6% for the rate of return. It was 4%. And keep in mind, these pensions are over an average of 5 years, so our investments are doing great right now, but this is an average. And then police and fire, inactive mortality experience, people are living longer than expected, so that impacted the pension. What are the contributions the increase? So general employees, it went up about 5% to 37.94. Police officers, it went up about 3% to 15.79. And firefighters, it went up about 4% to 34.68. And the reason police officers, the contributions are so much lower is because we have such a high turnover that those, when a police officer leaves, the contributions go back into the pot, and that helps pay for future pensioners. So the funded ratios currently, general employees, 79%, police officers over 85%, firefighters, 83%. And we asked Mr. Lozen, what is a good funded ratio? Well, you don't want it at 100% because this is an estimate of a point in time. And if you put in 100%, that's resources that you could be using for other uses. So our target is 80%, and that is a really wise decision on our part. And that really summarizes the pension plans. So any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Yes.
A couple of questions. I've always had angst between the police and the fire and the seemingly advantage that the fire has over the police. But I know that there's more turnover in the police, and I know that what that does to the when the dollar amount goes back in. My question is, if you get a person at 20 years old that works for our fire department and they work 30 years, and you get a person that's 20 years old that works for the police for 30 years, are they going to retire with the same pension, or is there going to be something, will it be different?
So it's based on their years of service.
30 and 30. All things being equal, levels of service, same pay, for example, is there any way to calculate, or is there any way to postulate that, because in my mind, I still feel like the fire department has a little bit of an advantage on their retirement over the police, but intuitively, I know that's not true, but I'm trying to get comfortable with that.
Well, actually, the pension plan on firefighters, they get a 3.8%, and police officers, it's 3.5%.
So that's their multiplier,
Yeah, that's-
Commissioner Dantzler. So
They get
that, if both employees start same time and both stay 30 years, when they leave, the multiplier for the police officer is 3.5% for each year of service. And for each firefighter, for the firefighter, it's 3.8%. So it's a difference of 0.3%. And that's just based upon how the pension was built and structured over time.
Are their salaries the same? I mean, do they start at the same? Will they retire at the same dollar amount?
No, the salaries are going to be different between those two. The hours they work is different between the two, the number of hours they work within a year.
Okay.
There's very significant differences between a 30-year police officer, a 30-year firefighter. You're talking about firefighters are working 2,600 hours a year is what that 24, 48 on-shift rotation looks like. The Kelly Day multiplier comes into play there, the amount of overtime, all that weighs into the annual earnings of a firefighter on how their pension is calculated.
So I'm looking at it correctly, that the firemen do get a little bit more of a bump, 0.3%, if they both work 30 years, all things being equal. And you're saying that was because that's the way it was set up from the very beginning, or?
And I would venture to say that, that given the way that we staff and the demands of those jobs, there's incentives within fire that aren't necessarily there within police. So when you have like paramedic pay, that's an incentive that is paid in addition to the regular pay of a firefighter. It's an additional certification that they have. And just the sheer way that their schedules are run, the demand for overtime is significant within there as well. So the earning potential on a annual pay tends to be higher within, there's greater opportunity for it, let me say that, within fire.
Okay. And CJ, the fact that we are having to contribute more, you said that's based primarily on the fact that salaries have been going up so dramatically?
Yeah, salaries, investment income, the rate of return weren't what they expected.
I'd also suggest, Commissioner Dancer, that the general pension being closed to new folks coming in also adds to that, longer mortality, longer life expectancy of the people that are in there, and no new money coming in to that.
Right. So that was my next question in regards to the general pension. Is it a realistic expectation that we're going to obviously the math works, so we're going to have to consistently put more in, assuming we don't have a bunch of people die.
Right.
Right now, we're at a 79% funding ratio. That's pretty good. We'll take that. But like 10 years from now, are we still be at 79% for our general employees, or are we just going to have to keep putting more and more money in until this thing runs its course, or?
You will, but keep in mind these are assumptions, and those assumptions change every year. They're updating it every year. So in 10 years, investment income might be super great. But the theory is we will have to keep contributing money as those people retire.
But the people that are still in that plan and are still working, they're still contributing to the plan.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
It's just the new employees are not. So theoretically, people that are still working are still paying for the people that have retired. They drop off. It's probably going to be 20 years before that becomes a real issue, I would think, or 15 years, 20 years. I'm thinking out loud, which is dangerous, but.
Well, and keep in mind, the employee, their rate is fixed. The city's rate will vary to keep it fully
Oh, I agree.
funded.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I think overall, Commissioner Dancer and members of the commission, the report from Doug Lozen is that things are good. There is the issue of the assumptions, coming in lower than the assumptions. That's driven by, economic factors as much as anything. It's over a 5-year period. It also contributes to that. You are absolutely correct that the costs for the general employee pension, that number will likely continue to increase as people live longer and there's fewer people within the pension still working that are contributing to it. The last person out, that's when hopefully, you'll have less people that are receiving the benefit at that point, but there's going to be a point where the amount that the city has to contribute continues to rise to some degree, but that funded level, you want to always try and maintain that at a 80% target.
That's a very good point, T. Theoretically, this is an esoteric question, but let's say everybody in the whole pension plan died at once. Who gets that? Where does that money go? To the beneficiaries?
Beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So the last person on the last day, if they die, and there's $1 million left in there, who gets that?
No, it wouldn't be. So Your benefits are based on your years of service and your average salary. So let's say you get 100,000 every year till you die.
Yeah.
And then it would go to your beneficiary. But if there's money left over, all that money doesn't go to you. It would go, I believe, back to the city.
I mean, at some point, the plan's going to run its course, though.
Right.
So let's say 30 years from now, after MJ dies, and he's the last one, he's the last man standing. But there's still $1 million in the pool. There's still $1 million in the pool, and MJ is the last man standing. Will that go to where?
It wouldn't go to him because he.
No, it would go to him, but it would go,
City manager's office, obviously, that's where he works.
I mean, normally it folds back into the plan, but since the
That's
plan
how
is going to be
I've
dead
never
at that
been
point.
through that, but that's what I
I
would
would-
assume. It goes back into. the
We can
plan.
get clarification on that, Commissioner Dancer, but I believe that that would come back to
Yeah,
the
it
city.
don't matter.
Is the,
It don't matter. I'm just thinking out. And the last question is, you mentioned there was a higher mortality risk of the retirees?
So the fire and police, I hate to sound morbid, but I think they expected a certain percentage to pass away, and that did not occur. So-
That's happening everywhere, and that's, that's great.
Yeah.
God bless them. Our medical is keeping people a lot longer. That's why these pension plans are
Right.
so difficult now. But it had to do with retirees, not our current people.
It had to do with the police and fire pensions.
The
So
re-
that
the-
was one of their assumptions, that people.
there would be a higher mortality rate amongst the retirees than what is actually shown to be the case.
Okay.
That our police and firefighters upon retirement are living longer, healthier lives
Right.
than what may have been the case in the past.
Okay.
Just clarify something on the rate of return discussion. So we're looking over that 5-year period, which of course encompasses 2020, 2021, 2022 at this point, which were not great years in the market. So averaging that out, you're at a 4% return. Do you know where we're at in the last 2 years?
Oh, I can get it to you. It's,
That's okay. And then if I'm assuming that the last 2 years were far greater than 4%,
they were.
would be a pretty safe assumption.
Right.
So as those bad years roll off, assuming, things continue to roll forward and we have higher gains, does that potentially put us in the position of having to contribute less as those previous years roll off? So we're paying up now, but that's going to go into the equation going forward, next year and the year after, where hopefully we start to pay less because the gains are higher than.
That is exactly right. And we do a evaluation every year, so they're always truing it up. And this year, on the police and fire, we prepaid a little bit too much, so that's a benefit to us. And then the general fund was like 24,000 short, so we just trued that up.
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates, on that point, if you go back to the global financial crisis, 2008, and the impact that had on pensions, that's actually the precursor to what led to the closing of the city's general employee pension was bad years that drove those costs so high. So you're right, it's a 5-year rolling average, and as those bad years fall off, then your assumption rate of return or your actual rate of return tends to more align with what your assumption was.
2022 was the bad year. That was the year when the bond market had the worst year we've had since 1980, and the stock market went down 20%. So we got a few more years before the smoothing technique kicks in.
Well, 20 and 21 weren't awesome.
They weren't awesome, but 2022 was when the bottom fell out as far as the bond market. That was the worst year we've had in a long time. And if you look back, 2022 was when the pension really took a hit. So we got a couple more years of that before the smoothing technique kicks in, but it will eventually, so.
Anyone else?
We'll be checking MJ's health every day now. I just want you guys to know that.
Thank you.
Oh, he's the last man standing.
Developments of note, we have none. Commissioners, you have the minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve minutes of May 8th, 2024 City Commission meeting, agenda review meeting, excuse me.
Thank you. I will close the city commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to the minutes may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We open the commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. Okay, we have 4 people that would like to address the commission, and they all want to talk about pickleball. So, we'll start with Steve Tabb. Would you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Steve Tabb, 105 Sugar Creek Road, Winter Haven, Florida, 33880. So yeah, we're here to represent the pickleball community. And our goal is to see how we can be involved with the city people and to be able to take advantage of all the growth that's going on in the pickleball community. We want to be a part of being able to expand along with the expansion of the number of people that are playing. And we found that the benefits of pickleball are tremendous. I mean, even statistically, 3 of you guys have played at least 1 time, and 4 of you has played at least 8 times. So I don't know how many pickleball players there are up there. And from never attending a meeting, I don't know the exact protocol of what it is that I would want to explain as far as, are you interested in hearing what the benefits of pickleball are? Are you interested maybe in seeing what the benefits could be for the community? But I do have a short list of all of those things, and it's all what we consider good stuff. It's about fellowship. It's about playing together. It's real easy for people to play. Good for your mental health. We care about that. The ease of play, the low cost of entry, the fact that it's just such a sociable event. It's an outlet for many people to make new friends. It is great exercise. It is fun. And the other thing is, it's turned out that it's become a very popular fundraiser for all these organizations that are taking place in the community. So by note, my son is actually the owner of Florida Pickleball, and he's also the state ambassador for Florida. And he runs tournaments throughout the cities. So recently, he ran a tournament for the Children's Home Society out of Lakeland. They raised $15,000 for the organization. And he also did one for the first responders out of Tampa. So there's a lot of good opportunities. So our goal was to see how we could work with the city to be able to expand along, because the issue that we have now, because of the growth, is we don't have the facilities now to be able to accommodate everybody that's playing. We have limited places to play in Winter Haven. We have the Winter Haven Tennis Complex. They actually have 4 courts out there, but the overflow there is causing a huge backlog of all the people that are wanting to play. There's an extreme wait time, so a lot of people are choosing to leave and go play. Bartow built 12 brand-new courts out there for people to play. Lakeland put 8 more over at Kelly Rec. So we have facilities around the town, but we're actually trying to see how we could maybe be able to get some facilities here, in Winter Haven. So I was told, I guess protocol, to send a letter, and I do have some copies of it. I have a letter that I sent and the response, if you folks would like to be able to see what I wrote and what was written back, so you could get an idea of where in the process, let me keep one so I remember what it says. So back in October, I wrote a letter telling that the pickleball courts at the Winter Haven Tennis Center, am I running out of time? Yeah. Oh, it's, okay. Oh, okay.
Minute 22.
All right. So the response was, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture team are beginning the process of a parks master plan to look at facilities citywide, and pickleball courts have definitely been a part of that conversation. There are a few locations under consideration. This is a priority of Mayor Dantzler. Please stay tuned to the website. So this was back in October, so we're just trying to see, at what point, where might we be, and what is it that we can do to work with the city to be able to help out with this.
Okay.
Any questions?
I think, T, what I would prefer to do is hear all of the comments, and then if you want to make, yes, okay, thank you.
Thank-
Margaret Gasperson.
I'm Margaret Gasperson. I live at 32 St. Kitts Circle, Winter Haven, 33884. I've been living in Winter Haven since 2009. I'm here to ask the City of Winter Haven to move forward in securing pickleball courts for our community. Outdoor courts would be nice, indoor courts would be fantastic. In North Carolina, I began as a softball player in my teens and 20s. I began to play tennis in my 30s and 40s. I'm now 67, and 2 years ago began playing pickleball. I absolutely love it. Despite paying the injury price from time to time, yes, I've continued to play through my torn MCL. The need for courts is great. I have watched this pickleball community in Winter Haven grow and grow. Children, teens, young adults, middle-aged adults, and older adults are playing regularly. Courts are filled up. Monday, I played at St. John's UMC. There were 3 courts at St. John's with 4 people on a court. 12 were playing, 28 were waiting for their turn. This is a regular occurrence. In 2023, the Sports and Fitness Industry Association deemed pickleball the fastest growing sport in America for the 3rd consecutive year. They and the APP Tour's participation report says that there are 36.5 million pickleball players in the U.S. alone. Why is it loved so much? Because on your first try, you can have a great time. Unlike tennis, which I played for many years, I was a 3-5 player in North Carolina, playing in leagues and going to state tournaments. It took me over a year before I was good enough to play on a team and really have fun. With pickleball, short courts, a wiffle ball, and hard paddles make pickleball accessible to everyone. On Monday, I played with every age, men and women. One guy in his 80s put so much spin on the ball, my usually agile self could barely return his serves. And that's the way it always is. Everyone, all ages, all levels, men and women, boys and girls, having fun. So here's a few problems we're having. There's not enough court, wait times are long. Because of the shortage of courts, a wide range of skill levels play together, which is frustrating for both beginners and for very skilled players. We need to have enough courts to separate skill levels so everyone can enjoy it. We need league play, we need more tournaments. Outside, it's hot, especially in the late spring, summer, and early fall. It's almost prohibitive if you struggle with the heat at all. Indoor courts are usually preferred. So what can be done? There are some options for me. This is my suggestions. Number 1, get a team of people together to pursue this. Include people from the city and people from the community who are invested in this. Get outside help. Steve was talking about his son. That's a good option. Get investors. I know one person who told me he would love to invest and he doesn't even play. Number 2, take an existing structure, for example, Macy's. And I don't know anything about Macy's other than it's sitting there empty, which has been empty for the last few years. Turn it into a fabulous pickleball facility with low member fees, restaurant, concessions, and a bar. Hire a pro, give lessons, create leagues, have tournaments, create kids programs. Pickleball is an inexpensive sport to play and run. There are tons of these facilities going up all over the country, all over Florida. The Orlando Sentinel highlighted 3 new facilities being built in Orlando just a month ago. This one's my preference. Number 3, use the Advent Fieldhouse as a pickleball facility for a few times a week, during the day and in the evenings. It's here, it's built. It means taping lines and pulling out the temporary nets, but that doesn't take long. We saw what can happen when the American Pickleball Tour was played there. Pickleball could defer to other sports tournaments when they come into town. If you want to see what converting your facility can do, just look at the indoor courts at the Auburndale Community Center. They are filled up with many people waiting to play. Number 4, take another tennis court or 2 and turn them into more courts at the Winter Haven Tennis Facility. You can get 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. Take the shuffleball courts and turn them into pickleball courts. There are a ton of elderly people, including me, that play pickleball. This can be done. Let's make Winter Haven a pickleball destination, which is what a lot of cities are doing now. Let's teach pickleball to the kids at our community centers during the summer. Nets and paddles are very affordable. Let's make Winter Haven the coolest small town in Florida with more pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you. This next name is this Marie, living at 1880 26th Street.
I think you mean Mark Hill, maybe.
I can't, it's, yeah.
Not Marie, for the record. Although it's a
Art.
beautiful name. Sorry, thank you, good afternoon. Actually, when I put my name on the list there, I didn't realize it was me signing up to make comments, so I don't have, I'm really just here to show my support for
Okay.
for those who have already made comments and very well prepared remarks. I'm not sure what the process is that you all described that you need to go through for, these types of projects. All I would say is that we're late, given our neighbors, with Bartow and Auburndale both being smaller communities and already having these, facilities, whatever their process was to go through, they've gotten it done. Lakeland, obviously, bigger city, but also, providing this. It's the fastest growing sport, and it has been for several years. As has already been said, it crosses multiple spectrums in our community. Age, we've got teenagers playing against 80-year-olds over there, genders and, all different races, ethnicities, enjoying fellowship together. So it really is, a community pastime and sport. We've already talked about the great benefits, obviously, for the individuals, but I'm sure you can research what the benefits to communities across our state and nation have been, for those who have adopted pickleball. And I think that if Winter Haven were to embrace it, it could reap those similar benefits as well. So I'll go on record as the shortest speaker. Appreciate any, but if there's any information that we can, assist and provide you with to either A, convince you, or B, speed along the process, we would gladly do that. If you would like for us to more than fill up this room, we certainly can bring a lot of people to show you the support. I myself am in a text chat of 35 people. The reason why we have to do that is because we have to coordinate efforts to reserve the 4 courts that we have, on the days that they can be reserved. The only way to make sure that you get a court on the days where you have to reserve it is to, coordinate your efforts with your friends in that regard. So hopefully we get to the place where we don't have to do that. It is creating some tension, over there because obviously more people want to play than can play. So I know it puts a lot of pressure on Bonnie and the staff there. I'm sure the tennis players don't want to give more courts, but I will say we definitely outnumber the tennis players over there, and I think our membership actually costs more as well. So with that, I'll leave it to you for any questions, comments, and again, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mark. Claude Landry.
Yeah, my name's Claude Landry. I live 1116 Shoreline Lane, Winter Haven, and I've been playing pickleball for 5 years. I went to the meetings when they were going to build the new tennis complex, and I went to the meetings there for pickleball, and we kept telling them over and over again, 4 courts were not going to suffice, and they did not listen to that. They just built the 4 courts, and ever since, we've been waiting for more. I keep hearing we're going to have more and more courts, and I don't see anything happening. And again, I would prefer that the courts would be inside because the people of different levels, and then you have wind to deal with, and for health reasons, when it gets too hot in summer. And I myself have had 2 heart surgeries, one last July, and 8 weeks later, I was back on the court. And so I find it's really helping me to keep on going and stay healthy. And so I'd encourage the board, especially like Advent Health, I can't see why that complex can't be utilized a little bit more and add 4 courts inside of there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, T.
So, great compliments and comments on pickleball. It's great to see the advocates here. Margaret has been bending my ear for as long as she's been playing. You know, this is not a new phenomenon, as I've shared with commissioners and others before. The first pickleball courts I built were in 1992, when the Villages was just getting started. The Parks and Recreation team is aware of that need, and Director Adams and members of her team, through the master planning process that's going on right now, are exploring opportunities. Mayor Dancer, or Commissioner Dancer, and I have had a number of conversations on this, as well as potential locations where we think something could occur. It's a question of negotiating engagements with property owners where we might be able to co-locate something on property that is not owned by the city. There is a significant cost to building outdoor facility, even more so to building an indoor facility. I think in the Parks and Recreation budget, one of the things that they have forecasted out for when we can fold this into our capital plan is estimating probably between $1.5 million and $2 million just for an outdoor facility. And that's certainly not something that we have just about, that we've got to figure out how do you fund that long term. I do support the thoughts that were shared by the group this evening about how can you accommodate that when possible within the field house, and I think that's something for us to explore, and I think Julie may have already looked at that to some extent, but we'll take that under advisement and report back to the commission and share that certainly with our pickleball enthusiasts as we look a little further into that.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
First of all, whoever the second speaker was, what was your name? Margaret, that was beautiful what you said. That was one of the best talks up there. You really made yourself, you expressed yourself very well, so compliments to you. My problem with pickleball is the score. I still don't know how to keep score with pickleball, so would somebody please give us a pickleball scoring 101.
This coming from a guy who plays tennis.
Yeah, I'm just
That makes
teasing.
no
Yeah.
sense.
And I will, just a little bit of a historical perspective. When we were building the tennis courts, at the time, clay tennis courts was the fastest growing sport in America. So when we built that place over there and we put in those clay courts, that was at the time the fastest growing sport in the country. And now, since then, we've been usurped by pickleball, and we get it. The issue, I know that T and I, we talked a little bit about using one of the ideas was possibly using some of the shuffleboard courts. I still think we can explore that. And, I was buying plants this weekend at a new place, and they had shade covers over the top of their plants, and I was talking to the guy that owned it, and it blocks about 35% of the heat and the sun just with these shade structures. So maybe that's an alternative. We do something outside. I don't know how we buy Macy's, but maybe there is some. Did you ever look at the fact of possibly using some of the land where the shuffleboard courts are? And
We have looked at that. There's some challenges with that, and what you gain based upon the cost, the return on investment may not be sufficient to do such. And I'll need to get a further update from Julie and Andy on that, but we are exploring another location, as we had talked about previously, that I'd prefer not to comment further on at this point.
No, I appreciate that. The issue that I see is if we're going to have it in a place where it's going to be manned, having it down kind of near the existing facility. We already have staffing there. We already have bathrooms there. I have people that are parking down there. If there's any way you can connect it with an already existing facility, it sure is a lot cheaper long-term than having to build something brand new, because you're right, if you build a brand-new facility, make it really big and nice, you're going to have staffing, and you're going to have all kinds of people who work there. And so we can tie it in and fold it in with some existing program, that much better. And I'm glad to see that you guys are reserving courts and making, in tennis, the situation is when we play tennis, we reserve courts and we play for 2 hours and we come off and somebody else takes our place. I'm glad that y'all are starting to do that now. It sounds like that's kind of, where instead of all just showing up at once, you actually space it out during the day. Is that sort of the way, is that kind of the way it goes now, or is it still just Saturday morning, Sunday morning?
Depends on the day.
Yeah,
Depends on the day, you know.
okay,
There are open play days and there are reserved only days.
okay.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday's open.
Well, see, that's a little foreign to me, because as a tennis player, we never just show up and play. We always have a match. We always have called people. We've gotten everybody together because we're kind of the same level. And I know you guys have more fun than we do because you laugh more and you carry on and you bring.
That happens Monday, Wednesday, but now the tennis center's starting to push back a little bit because groups want to reserve, but other people show up to play and they can't play because the court's reserved because there's not
Yeah.
enough courts. There's not enough courts.
Well, the nature of pickleball is you just kind of show up and play, right? And the whole thing of trying to reserve courts and get your own game sort of new, or is that, because it seems like whenever there's people out there playing, more people show up. It just sort of seems to attract. So,
Well, Mr. Excuse me. We just can't have a back and forth
All right, never mind.
dialogue with people in the audience.
I
I'm
yield
sorry.
my microphone.
All right.
Can I ask a question, though?
Yes. You need to ask it to, are you asking
It's
it?
going that direction.
Oh, this direction, okay, all right.
So, common sense, right? And the path, the easiest solution is always missed in government. And so I definitely feel their frustration, like, this is simple, it's right, just put a net up, give me a ball and a stick and I'll hit it. And I don't play pickleball, so I know it's not a stick, but it's a racket. Simple, right? Just put a net up and hit it back and forth. So I know you mentioned that you had spoke with Julie about it. The Magic have left the facility at the south portion of the field house. And then another idea is, could you do, like, we close at 2:00 Saturdays and Sundays at the tennis center. Could we not reopen and go from like 4 to 8 in the evenings to at least provide some pressure relief to the people that want to play? That's an immediate solution. That's
Right.
not a $1.5 million solution. That's not a, let's map this out and get 52 different bids solution. That's a, put the nets up, start playing solutions.
That is correct, and that is something that our team is already exploring with what that looks like with our current slate of teammates that we have now. Some of the part-time employees at the tennis center have other jobs, and so we're trying to work on the schedule once school gets out, so there should be a reflection of change of hours, hopefully within the next month, to accommodate that short-term flexibility.
And can you make that is like 4 to 8 a realistic possibility on Saturdays and Sundays?
We're looking to see what the realm of possibilities is now so that we don't overcommit with the team that we have currently. We would like to be able to lengthen the hours of operation during the weeknights as well as weekends, and so we're trying now to come up with a schedule that would be feasible.
And could that be pickleball only hours, or do you so like you could have more pickleball courts than you do now?
So currently, the facility is only feasible for pickleball on the courts that we have the pickleball on, the one that is the 4 courts. But in addition to the tennis center, we're also looking at options to be able to open up some pickleball play in the field house as well. We have summer camp coming, and summer is a very busy time for another population that utilizes the field house with evening open play, et cetera. But we are looking to carve out some space at the field house as well to provide some additional space for play.
Okay. I appreciate staff's responses, and I know you, and I don't mean to be critical of government. I'm part of it. So I guess that makes me part of the problem. It's a simple problem, and it seems like there's simple solutions. So just the sooner we can get them some relief would be great. So I appreciate that.
If I could respond, Mayor Pro Tem Yates, I think it's a multitude of solutions, okay? The easy solution is go build a new facility. Make it as big as you possibly can, make it as accommodating as can be, and find the dollars to do it. That's a lot harder than it may sound. I think that there's likely some options to explore, that whether that's conversion of a practice court at the tennis courts to allow for expanded play of pickleball on that particular surface when it's not being used for instructional purposes, and designating that as such. The potential for housing or scheduling in time for designated play within the field house certainly is something that comes down to what's the scheduled availability. If you're a member of the field house, you will know, as I know many of you are, that that gets interrupted. A major basketball tournament there this weekend, that will take over the entire field house. That happens routinely on the weekends. The other thing to keep in mind is that we're in the process of building, and you have it on your agenda this evening, for the complete reconstruction and renovation of the facilities at the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. And again, an indoor dual gymnasium space that during the week outside of the summer period is ideal for this type of activity because you don't have anybody else using it. That's not always the case with the field house, that there's routinely activity that's taking place in there. What we have seen historically with the cultural center is the availability of that gym space, particularly Monday through Friday during the non-summer when kids are out of school, that there's a lot of availability that gives us. So that creates a multitude of opportunities to spread the solution around to different places versus trying to put it all in one. I'll tell you that the benefit of indoor versus outdoor, other than doing more outdoor, if there's a way to do that where we sit today, the noise issue is already there. And so having to mitigate that is not as big of an issue. Going indoor, the noise issue is contained, and that's the number one complaint from your residents when it comes to pickleball. Not necessarily in Winter Haven because we don't have it in residential areas, but around the nation. That's the biggest challenge of the sport, is the amount of noise that it contributes to adjacent populations. So where we've looked to do it in certain facilities, such as Rotary Park, the proximity to adjacent houses is problematic. That solves the problem for one demographic that you have before you tonight, only to have it replaced by another demographic of citizens who live adjacent to it. So we've got to be mindful of that. So those are some of the things that we work through. Got a lot of good notes this evening, and Julie and I and her team will continue to evaluate that and hopefully be able to provide some responses back to you and the members of the pickleball nation here before too awful long.
Okay. That's it? All right. Thank you. All right. Ordinance's second reading, O-2425, which read by title only, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-25, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Winter Haven, Florida, so as to include therein additional territory lying contiguous and adjacent to the present boundaries of the city of Winter Haven, Florida, describing said additional territory, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. General location, a parcel generally located north of Highway 540 West, east of King Road, and south of Cross Tower Drive. The area covered by this request is 1.19 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, nothing has changed on this item since first reading. Staff recommends City Commission approve ordinance O-24-25 on second and final reading.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move to approve ordinance O-24-25 on second reading.
Thank you. I will now close the City Commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this ordinance may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing. We open the commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the ordinance passes. O-2426, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-26, an ordinance of the city of Winter Haven, Florida, amending ordinance number O-24-21 regarding appropriation of funds for defraying expenses of the municipal government of the city of Winter Haven for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2023, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, as I mentioned earlier in my comments, we are in the process of finalizing the funding for the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. On April 8th of this year, Ordinance O-2421 was passed, which transferred $5.386 million of the city's general fund 2023 surplus to the 2021 construction fund. This effort that is coming for you in Ordinance O-2426 amends that and appropriates those surplus funds from the 2021 construction fund to the 2015 construction fund, which is where the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project is housed. Nothing has changed since first reading, and staff recommends the commission approve Ordinance 24-26 as presented on second and final reading.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve O-2426 in public hearing.
Thank you. I will now close the City Commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this ordinance may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the City Commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposers by the same sign. Hearing none, the ordinance passes. Ordinance O-2428, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-24-28, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, authorizing the city manager or his designee to opt in or out of any declared Polk County Fire Department burn bans within the municipal limits of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, and as more particularly set forth in this ordinance, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, the Polk County ordinance specific to burn bans allows for municipalities within the county to opt in or opt out if they have put in place such an ordinance or bestowed authority upon either the city manager or in some cases the fire chief. Winter Haven does not have or has not taken such action in the past. It is our recommendation that you as a commission approve an ordinance which is brought to you as 24-28. This will authorize the city manager or my designee that when the county is in the process of issuing a burn ban, they will reach out to, again, myself or the designee to determine if we are so inclined to opt into that ordinance or to stay out. If we stay out of their ordinance, it does not preclude us from issuing our own. However, if we choose to participate in their ordinance and burn ban notice, it allows us to do so much more expeditiously. And in the case of emergencies, that could be significant. So we are recommending City Commission adopt and pass Ordinance O-24-28 on second and final reading.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve O-2428 in second and public hearing.
All right, thank you. I will close the City Commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this ordinance may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the City Commission meeting. Is there any discussion?
Will this immediately put us into a burn ban at this point?
That's a great question, Commissioner Yates. So the county has actually issued a burn ban, as I understand it. I'm going to look to, I see our Operations Chief, Mike Waters, in the back, if he could confirm for me that the county did issue their burn ban today. And it includes Winter Haven in their burn ban. It is my take that that is an errant inclusion because we have no authority to opt in prior to the passing of this. However, by us passing this, we will notify them tomorrow of our intent to opt in, and they can amend their ordinance or further ratify it as need be. So we will go into the burn ban. The drought index is, Charlie, I'm looking to you, 507 right now, and the threshold for issuance at the county level is at 450. So we need to do some rain dances and hope and pray for a lot of rain to get that down, not just because of a burn ban, but because of the dangers that we have locally.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. 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 Opposers by the same sign, hearing none. The burn ban Well,
Opt in, opt out is approved.
opt in, opt out. So we're in. All right. Consent agenda, commissioners.
We didn't have an agenda review session, and that's normally where we go over these items. Would there be any objection to doing just a quick rundown of what we're looking at here?
Be happy to provide that if the commission desires.
Go ahead.
Okay, Polk County Library Cooperative Agreement. We've been with the cooperative since 1997. 13 municipalities within Polk County. Of course, Lakeland has a couple libraries within that. Winter Haven will soon have 2 libraries within the cooperative as well, once the Winter Haven Recreation Cultural Center is built. The cooperative is funded via a municipal service taxing unit, or MSTU, that's issued by the county, and then that money is divvied out to the participating libraries based upon 10% of our operating costs, and then our proportionate share of the circulation of materials. Last year, or current year, the city's revenue off of that is about $653,000 that comes to us from Polk County. I expect that number is going to go up in the future because, one, our operational costs associated with libraries will increase, and at 10% of whatever that higher number is, and I would also expect that our circulation will increase. The 10B is the Lake Elbert Trail. It's a change order. As you know, we're working on Lake Elbert Trail from Avenue G back to Avenue A Northwest, and we are in the process of removing some of the old utility infrastructure that's there. The intent was to remove a gravity sewer pipe, or the intent initially was to grout that in place, but it is in such poor condition that it is impossible to grout that, so it must be removed. So this is a change order tied to that work. And the cost associated with that change order, if you'll bear with me, is $239,761, and will be funded between the Transportation Fund and the Sewer Fund. The item 10C is the agreement for purchase and sale of property adjacent to wastewater treatment plant 3. This is a 13.39 acre parcel of land that is owned by Gary Bennett. The city is proposing to purchase this site, and we coordinated with Mancuso Appraisal to do a market value appraisal in February of this year. The market value of the property was estimated to be $645,000 for the 13.39 acres. We are purchasing it for significantly less than that, at $500,000. We have agreed to a due diligence and property investigation period of 7 months, which will basically bring us to close that property sometime after the first of the year 2025. That also accommodates the present owner's desire to relocate off of the site. So this will add to our land acquisition and holdings there next to the wastewater treatment plant. It also allows us to pursue expansion of 4th Street Southeast at the top of that red box, which gives us another entry point into the wastewater treatment plant that doesn't exist today. Item 10D, you may remember last year we had some issues with our clarifiers at wastewater treatment plant 3. We were scheduled to do improvements on clarifier number 1. I'm sorry, clarifier number, am I saying that right, number 1? Which is the northernmost. I'm looking at David back there as well. Clarifier 2 went down, and we had to go in and repair that. Well, we scabbed parts off of number 1 to repair number 2, and now we got to go back and fix number 1, so we've got to put some more dollars to that. This is a change order of $298,000 for that project, and that is allocated in the current budget for the project. 10E, several months back, we did a land swap with SAW Properties, whereby we took a piece of property from them on, I believe it was Avenue P, in exchange for a property that the city owned on MLK Boulevard. They have built a house on MLK Boulevard and have asked for a release of our rights of entry there, and related to any subsurface phosphate, minerals, metals, petroleum in the property in favor of the city. So this is pretty straightforward, and no significant impact back to the city.
Right.
And then 10F, is simply the acceptance of the actuarial valuations for the City of Winter Haven's General Employees Pension Plan, Police Officers Retirement System Plan, and Firefighters Retirement System Plan, which was presented previously by our CFO, CJ Scott. This is simply the acceptance of that report. So that is your consent agenda for this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve the consent agenda as a whole.
All right, thank you. I will now close the city commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to the consent agenda may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing. We open the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted in its entirety. Resolution R-2426. Would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution R-24-26, a resolution approving that certain plat entitled Sunset Hills for filing and acceptance of dedications in accordance with Chapter 177 Florida statutes with specific conditions, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and establishing an effective date. The general location subdivision is generally located south of Old Lucerne Park Road, south of La Quinta Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, Economic Opportunity and Community Investment Director Eric Labby will present this item this evening for your consideration.
All right, Eric.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, CW Sunset LLC is requesting final plat approval for Sunset Hills subdivision. It is a 45.4 acre subdivision containing 162 building lots and 12 common lots for stormwater retention, wetland, lift station, and open space areas. The internal roadways are within 50-foot rights-of-way and will be dedicated to the City of Winter Haven. All water and sewer utilities will be owned and maintained by the city, while drainage, conveyances, and stormwater management areas will be maintained by the HOA. A performance bond has been issued in the amount of $2,351,410.08 to the city to cover the cost of remaining infrastructure. That includes earthwork, sanitary sewer, potable water, stormwater management, and engineering certification. Approximately 71% of the required infrastructure has been installed. This is consistent with future land use and zoning. Using an estimated value of $250,000 per lot, the subdivision will have an estimated taxable value of $40.5 million and generate approximately $266,895 per year to the city in ad valorem revenue at the current millage rate. Staff does recommend the City Commission approve Resolution R-2426.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve Resolution R-24-26.
Thank you. I will now close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this resolution may do so at this time. Seeing none, I close the public hearing. We open the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Eric, isn't this a failing road? I thought we had problems out on 544 and there was capacity issues.
Yeah, it's getting close, sir. This is, this subdivision got in under the current concurrency and level of service standards for Lucerne Park, but it is getting close. This has been a road that's been on our radar for quite some time.
So I remember we approved, I think, 2 subdivisions or 3, and there was a race to see who was going to get in first. Was this one of those?
This is one of the ones that came in first, yes, sir.
Okay, so they got in first, okay. I remember now. Thank you.
Anyone else? I closed the public hearing, but I will back up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Hold on. Commissioners, I will reopen the public hearing. You may come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
I want to state my address. I just want to make a statement about.
Whoa. Those are our rules. State your name and your address for the record, if you want to speak.
Okay. Jeffrey Miller,
Your address.
1582 Marshall Road, Southwest, Winter Haven, Florida, 33880.
All right. You have 5 minutes.
On 544 on Lucerne Park Road, we'll be getting a traffic light there soon, with so much traffic and so much building been going there. And it's so much traffic going down there all the time. Only asking.
Well, I can answer that for you. The city of Winter Haven does not dictate whether or not there will be a traffic signal there. That's the State of Florida Department of Transportation.
Yes, sir. So where would I go from there on to find out if we would be able to get one on at 544? Because that's a lot of traffic on there and a lot of homes being built and a lot of businesses on that road.
Can I ask for
Especially
clarification?
around
Where
the curves.
exactly, sorry, one
Talking about
second.
Avenue Y and
You said why?
Avenue Y? Is that where you're
No,
talking?
no, I'm talking about, no. I'm talking about on Lucerne Park Road, like coming from, if you got AutoZone, going on down towards Lucerne Park Road.
Yes.
Yes, sir. All the way down there. It's just one big road, but it's just so much traffic and so, it's just crazy, especially when you come around like by the Rock Church and you keep coming.
Oh, okay. I thought you were specifically referring to the intersection of, because that's the only intersection that you really have that you could put a traffic light. But at any rate.
I was just asking. They told me that, if you like to have a question, and they told, if I like to have a question and get the community involved, they said, well, why don't you start coming to the meetings? And I said, you know what, I will. And I had like 12 that said we was gonna come, but they bagged out. So I said, you know what, I said, I'll come. And we said we'd all start coming. So
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
All right.
I just had that
there-
question though.
There are some improvements for 544, and I'll just allow the
Yeah, so
staff to
the
address it.
the DOT has in their work program, and I'm going to ask Eric to correct me where I may be wrong on this, the first two sections, or first one section of the State Road 544 improvement project, which goes from MLK Boulevard back through Avenue Y, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And they're looking at potentially different traffic solutions for the Avenue Y State Road 544 intersection, potentially to include a roundabout.
Yep.
Eric, do you know, are there additional improvements for signalization or discussion of signalization at the old Lucerne Park tie-in?
Yes, it's my understanding that the old Lucerne Park and 544 tie-in, there's a consideration for a lighted intersection at that point.
At the western intersection of that, across from the Villas of Lake Smart?
Yes, I believe, is that the location or is it on the eastern side?
We'll verify.
Oh, we'll verify. One of those
I
sides.
understand where you're coming from.
is scheduled to
Right
be
by
lit.
them apartments, right
Yeah.
past them condos.
So we'll get your information, and we'll get a clear update from the Department of Transportation on what their intents are with that, and share that with you.
So would you need my phone number to share with me?
Staff will get the information from you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, is there anyone else? All right, I will close the public hearing and reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none. Resolution is passed, R 2426. Resolution R 2427, which read by title only, city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number R-24-27, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, approving that certain public transportation grant agreement between the City of Winter Haven and the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, under contract number G2W26 and financial project number 453788-1-94-01 for funding for the installation of emergency generators at the Winter Haven Regional Airport Gilbert Field, and authorizing the city manager and appropriate city officials to execute and to take all other necessary actions regarding the said grant agreement, providing for severability, the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager.
Mr. Mayor, our Airport Director, Troy Heidel, will give you a brief overview of this project.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, City Management. This generator program will see the installation of 3 emergency generators at Airfield, one for our lighting vault, one for our fuel farm, and one for our terminal. This is an 80-20 grant, with the city shares being $73,000. This is in our proposed budget for the 24-25 fiscal year.
So Commissioners, just to elaborate on something that Mr. Heidel shared, it's an 80-20 with DOT. So DOT is going to contribute $292,000 towards the project to match the city's $73,000. So again, 20 cents on the dollar for the installation, purchase and installation of these 3 generators.
It's pretty good. All right, thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion to approve Resolution R-2427.
Thank you. I will now close the city commission meeting and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to Resolution R-2427 may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We open the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. 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 Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, Resolution R-2427 is adopted. Ordinances are first reading. We have none. New business, 13A. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'm going to present this item, and certainly Julie Adams, our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, is on hand to answer any more technical questions you may have. But as I mentioned earlier, multiple times, we are in the process of moving forward with the renovation of the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. City Commission had awarded Collage Design and Construction Group a CMAR contract for this project back in 2021 via RFQ 2110. This project will feature a new building with a double gymnasium, fitness center, library technology area, offices, fitness center, as I mentioned, and other support spaces, new zero-depth entry swimming pool, splash pad, playground, pavilions, park space, outdoor basketball court, parking, and other support amenities. Major items related to the GMP that has been submitted by Collage include them providing full construction oversight services for a GMP of $19,995,749. GMP includes all services, including construction oversight, building materials, labor associated with building the project. The only items that are excluded are items such as certain furniture and other items which the city will budget for separately. Typically, we budget for loose items and FF&E items within, or I'm sorry, with the, FF&E within our own budget rather than the construction budget. If the final construction price comes in less than that GMP, the city and Collage will split the savings, with 75% of the savings going to the city, 25% going to the contractor. The GMP does contain a 5% construction manager's fee and a contractor's contingency. That contractor's contingency can only be used if authorized by the city, and that is to allow for any escalation in materials or construction labor, things that can happen over the course of a construction project of this size. The city also has within our own budget our own contingency, so we've got a little double protection within this. If that contingency is not used by the contractor as authorized by the city, that comes back as part of the savings on the project. Collage Construction is expected to start construction early this summer, and the project is expected to take approximately 17 months. So we expect to see the building coming down late June, early July, and then be done probably no later than December 2025 is our hope. I shared with the commission in some briefings some imagery of that project, and shared with you our hope is that the first major event we do in there, if it's not opening that building, was a big Christmas gift to the community. It's celebrating Dr. MLK weekend with the first major event in there. There's a table within your fact sheet that spells out all the costs for the project. It is $19.995 million is the GMP. There is some money that's been encumbered to Collage for pre-construction services. The FF&E, finished furnishings and equipment, is $500,000 set aside. I mentioned a city contingency of $500,000. And there is some encumbrance still out to our architects, Strawn Trout Architects, bringing the total project to $21.342 million. Current budget for the project reflects a balance of $18.072 million, which leaves a delta or shortfall of $3.27 million. The ordinance that was passed earlier this evening, 24-26, which amended the city's budget to include the transfer of $150,000 in library impact fees and $3,120,270 from surplus funds in the 2021 construction fund to the Winter Haven Recreational and Cultural Center project. Between the current balance of funds allocated by 24-26, the project is fully funded at $21,342,303. Staff recommends City Commission approve the GMP for the design and construction and overall project budget as outlined within this fact sheet for the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents and take all necessary actions related thereto. As I elaborate within that presentation, we do expect construction to commence in probably the next 4 to 6 weeks. That will be a lot of demolition work, very similar to what we saw with the Winter Haven, or with the Chain of Lakes Park project. Estimations are probably somewhere between 5 and 8 weeks to demo out that site and get it ready to go forward with some site work to get it leveled out and balanced so that the construction can get underway. We have displaced, or will be displacing, all of our services there to include our summer camp, and are factoring into our budget for fiscal year 24-25, the next budget that you will approve, what the staffing levels will need to be for that facility. We will budget those at probably about 25% of the operating year next year, in the anticipation that that building comes online any sooner, and also that we can have staff on board to understand the final closeout of that construction and how the systems work. So we are ready to move forward.
Great. Questions?
What is the timeline?
17 months for construction, so start in late June, early July 2024, like I said, in about next 6 weeks or so, and then to be complete with construction, knock on wood, no hurricanes, no major setbacks, by December of 2025. We will have a public meeting, I believe it's on June 6th.
Yes.
We'll take all the images and renderings that the commission has seen and share those with the public. We've had an extremely engaged community group. Commissioner Dollison has been a part of that since day one, and we have valued their feedback, and they've helped guide a lot of the decisions that we made.
All right. Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move approval of the guaranteed maximum price amendment for the Winter Haven Recreational and Culture Center.
All right, thank you. I will close the city commission meeting and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this item may do so at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposers by the same sign. Hearing none, hallelujah.
We're going to build something great.
Long time.
Exciting.
Yes. All right. Commissioner Liaison reports. Commissioner Dantzler.
Kind of a slow couple weeks for me. We had I was at the She Knows Where She's Going luncheon with several of our commissioners were there. Also at the graduation ceremony, handing out diplomas. Very proud of, what was his name, our valedictorian, 4.876. Lopez, Chris Lopez's son, the doctor, 4.876 GPA. And the young lady that came in second was like a 4.826 or something. It was neck and neck, but I don't know how you get that kind of scores anymore, but that's what they did. And I was going to the Field House and Conference Center to work out, which I go all the time, and got pulled in by Katrina to do a quick new employee meet and greet. So I got to see all the new employees there, and I was in my workout gear, so that was kind of interesting. Two other quick little things in regards to the pickleball thing. You know, the temptation might be to put courts in the field house and conference center, but let me tell you, I'm down there a lot. And those courts are used by the basketball kids all the time. So if we just start displacing the basketball kids, then the basketball players are going to be coming down here standing at this podium going, why are you making us, you got to build us a new basketball facility. So we got our hands full with the pickleball, and it's a good problem to have. It's just, it's a factor of all these people moving to Winter Haven and everybody wanting to do some of the same stuff. It's a good problem to have. We'll solve it. But, and it makes me feel really good when I go down to the field house and conference center to see all those kids down there playing basketball. And then come in on the weekends and you have the volleyball and you have the gymnastics, and it's a good, that place has far exceeded any expectations that I ever thought that we would get out of that. So, and my last question, T, in regards to the chain of lakes, has the demolition completely been done? And when are we going to start with construction down there with the new stuff that we've kind of got on the agenda?
They're finishing the demo right now. We're awaiting final bids from our CMAR to get moving on the construction part. What's happening right now is they're working on balancing the site, and so that has to be done using some of the hill that was the previous stadium. So that's the final piece of the demolition to finish, hopefully within the next week or so.
Okay.
And then we await those bids, and then we'll get going, hopefully within the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks. That was the latest estimation I got from Andy Palmer.
You know, I was on the chain this weekend and I just noticed all those lily pads and weeds and stuff. Are we going to be able to clean that out to where we can activate that lake? Is that, I used to always be afraid of Mike Britt whenever I talked about that, but he's not here anymore.
He's listening.
Can we pick those weeds to where we can at least have docks and boat ramps down there and activate?
Have you met MJ?
Oh, MJ, okay.
30 years, you just wait 30 years.
Yeah, that's right. But are we going to be able to I know we keep talking about activating Lake Lulu, but there's a lot of weeds and a lot of vegetation on that lake that we're going to have to get rid of to activate that lake. How do we do that?
That's a great question. We're still discussing how that's going to end up happening in the final plans for the balance of the site when that construction moves through. We're focusing on baseball operations in this first phase, and then that will be a discussion that we continue to have as we focus on phase 2 when that opportunity comes.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's it.
The Commissioner, to answer one thing I seem to recall through a recent discussion is, the balancing of that site. I think it has to do more so with the permit aspect of it, that once we start balancing and moving dirt around, it triggers a different segment of the permitting that is part of the process we go through. So that's why all that vertical demolition is taking place. Julie is right that we've got to get in and start excavating where those lower fields were, because that's going to be a wet pond ultimately, and all of that requires the finalization of all the swift mud permitting within there. So it's all part of the process, but I think we're seeing good progress thus far.
Okay, good deal.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Mercer?
Okay. I attended the Public Safety Leadership Council graduation. The graduated attendees now have a better outlook and understanding of what it means to be a public safety officer. They had a lot of positive comments on the training, and also the introduction to various aspects of training and the ride-alongs. So they had a lot of positive things to say about those. Also attended Winter Haven graduation. I was certainly amazed by about half of the 600 and almost 90 some students, or somewhere in there. Someone told me how many they were, but almost half of them had sashes of either all A's or all B's. And so half of that class, I was just amazed that many of them had that good of grades in academics, Also attended the Girl Scout Inc., and she knows where she's going luncheon. And they not always, recognize or 3 other coaches or leaders for the year, and some of those are amazing volunteers. The new employee luncheon, I met some of the new employees. And also I did the chamber, they showcased Cruise Bank. But then I had another meeting to go to after that, and I had to go to the TPO Community Forum Advisors Network, Polk County Tourism and Auburndale. Mainly this was a community forum on resiliency and carbon reduction. They talked a lot about bridges and where the failure of those bridges are due to flooding and things like that. And it's not the bridge, it's usually the embankments and things that often fail. They talked about paving, widening intersections or more roads, and then they did a survey to ask you to relate on which of these you thought was the most important. So that was my 2 weeks, I guess, for the meetings.
All right.
Well, I forgot one thing. I want to say one quick more thing. When I was at the graduation, I've never seen this before, but 3 of the young ladies complimented Commissioner Mercer on her dress. 3 people came up.
You've never
over
seen
the course-
anybody do that before?
I've never seen them. I've never worn a dress though. And the last thing is, I have been handing out those diplomas for 10 years, and I've always been next to Nancy Bachman, and I'm always impressed with how many kids come up and hug her and love on her and stuff, but I think Nancy has finally found her match, and it's this guy right here. Every kid that came up there hugged on him and knew him, and he knew them, and they were, he was giving them words of wisdom, and I'm sitting here watching all this, and so, Rev, congrats, because you've made a difference in a lot of kids' lives, because a lot of kids wanted to hug him and tell him something, so congrats. I just wanted to say that publicly, because I was proud of you.
Appreciate you. All right. Roll call. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it to Mayor Birdsong. It was a busy last week or two, and I was able to attend the Lake Conine project for the community open house. It was very informative, and I enjoyed that. Also was able to attend the 100-year birthday of Miss Annie Davis, and that was exciting. And they at the senior center, and I was there, and they asked me to offer a prayer, and but then one of the residents came up and she gave her a card and put $100 in it, and I think they did another $100 from the center. And I said, well, everybody's giving $100. I guess I'm about to come up with $100. So I was able to share that with Miss Annie, and she likes to shop at Publix, and goes every week, in fact. And so I ran into her at Publix there. It's just wonderful to see, just being able to share with someone, wonderful things they shared about her as well. Also, I was honored to attend the funeral services for the late Reverend Dr. Gay Henry, who was a retired major in our police department here in Winter Haven. I worked with Gay through the years. He was just an amazing officer, but also a gentleman, pastor, preacher, and it was a great celebration of his life, and it was an honor just to be able to be there and share with that, and also to see our law enforcement show up in great numbers to honor him as well. Also attended the graduation, and one of the things at the graduation was quite, I guess, to me, one mother said to me as she was passing by with their son, and she said, all started at our church. We had a daycare center, and so here this child started, at 3 years old at our daycare, and now he's walked across the stage and graduating, and so it made me feel real good just to see that, and some of those kids I've known all their lives, so that was really impressive, to say the least. Also attended the Girls Inc. Annual She Knows Where She's Going. That was always, is always amazing just to see how people, give in the community and make a difference. And just getting that recognition, I think, is really very special. So I was happy to be there and sharing that. I've been going for a few years. Also, I was impressed with the A&E, new auto body, ribbon cutting there, phenomenal facility.
I was trying to find a car I need to have worked on just to bring it in there. So it was, it's very nice. I mean, they're very proud of it, and we should be as well, all of us, because it's, from where they were and where they are now, it's just 23,000 square feet, 2 brand-new paint booths, you know. I'm scared to ask how much they cost, but it was a very, very impressive place. Also was able to attend the new employee luncheon, and just enjoy sitting there and talking with employees. Amazing, we have conversation with some of them. They do know who we are, so, you know, that's kind of impressive, you know. And one of them specifically asked who, you know, as we were conversating. Also, was able to share at our church the DPA for the first-time home buyers and owners, and for the owner-occupied rehab program, CHIP money, as we know it to be, a CRA. Our employees, Cedric, and those who came did an outstanding job. Full house. A lot of people had a lot of questions, were very much engaged and involved in that process. At the same time, we did a welcome for the new residents of Florence Place. I believe about 80% are actually now in their apartments, and so we had a picnic for them, and many of them came over and had a great time and just shared and got a chance to meet many in the community. In fact, on Sunday morning, several of them showed up to church, so that was very exciting. Finally, I would like to say that I do appreciate our city for being inclusive of all residents, and I think that's important for many reasons. I think to exclude people or to not acknowledge who they are and what they bring to this city and how we make this a very unique place. We all have our differences, but I think our differences is really what brings us together and makes us a wonderful community in which to live and grow. And I hope that we always keep that, because I feel that in some communities that's put under attack, where, you know, people are trying to exclude and trying to keep people back, and I think that that's wrong-headed. I think it's not in the best interest of our city, and I pray and hope that Winter Haven will be the example and not go along with some of those who are trying to, I think, take us in a direction I think is not progressive and not helpful, and certainly hurting to a lot of people in our community. So I appreciate that tonight, so it's just great to know that and see that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
So I had the honor and privilege of representing the city of Winter Haven at the Florida League of Cities Fast Fly-In last week. Gary Hubbard had to step out, but I was going to really impress him as I became the lead in discussions around PFAS in Washington, D.C. Okay. So was able to really tie into what the city of Winter Haven has experienced and gone through thus far relative to PFAS, and that is the testing of our water. Recently, the EPA came out and actually made a final determination on, you know, what's the appropriate level of PFAS in our drinking water, and that came in at 4 parts per trillion. So it's going to take some dollar bills to continue testing of our water and making sure that it's at a safe level, which at this point, my understanding, it completely is. And ultimately, you know, what we asked for up there is the same thing that we asked for in our trip recently as a commission up there, and that is liability protection. There are a lot of attorneys in this state. Sorry, John.
Not as good as ours.
Thank you, sir. And they love litigation, and so we as a municipality did not put the PFAS into the system, but now we've got to deal with it. So it's important that we take our funds that we can allocate towards solving the problem rather than getting John Morgan a bigger house or whoever wants to try to litigate it. So hopefully that will come to fruition with that liability protection there. The other items that we spoke about One was the flood insurance, and that is, it appears like we're going to have a 5-year reauthorization of the NFIP, which is a national, but fortunately, that's still kicking the can down the road, and we're going to have to circle back and ensure that that continues. Lots of different things that I don't want to take up too much time on here, but I'd like to eventually get with staff on some of the things that we talked about up there, and that's the OSHA certification, federal mandates, which is coming through NFIP as well, and it got a little bit cloudy for me, so I'm sure that you guys can help me get that straightened out in my head. And then finally, the last item that we spoke about was streamlining the grant process. Senator Rubio, of course, led that legislation a few years back, and Congressman Franklin as well. So there's a Senate bill, there's a House bill, a companion House bill there to move that forward. The problem is when they started talking about streamlining the grant process 4 or 5 years ago, the state of Florida had not experienced the growth that it has experienced today. And so the number that they were talking about in resident number was 50,000. And so I made the point with Congressman Franklin's office and many others that 50,000 might have been okay 4 or 5 years ago. But now the municipalities across the state have grown exponentially over these last 4 or 5 years, while Washington has continued to just talk about this. And now it's coming to fruition, but now a lot of them, are going to be kicked out to help streamline that grant process, which those dollars can go help with a lot of the growth that we've experienced throughout the state. So hopefully we kind of went back on some numbers in a couple of the offices, and I started at 75 and they started at 60, and we ended up at 62.5 in one office and 65 in another. So that won't get us all the way there for long, but hopefully the grant process can get streamlined up there in Washington, and hopefully it'll be in a level where the city of Winter Haven can secure a few grants before we exceed that level of limits. So with that, I appreciate the commission's confidence in sending me up there. A lot of great discussions in every meeting, whether the congressional or Senate leader was from our area or not. I was able to tie Winter Haven back to the story. And so I think that gave us a lot of value, and everybody knows up there that Winter Haven has a lot going on. So that's something to be proud of.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Well, I had a few things, and a lot of them have already been mentioned. The Girls Inc. luncheon, the Arthur Clark at Cruz Bank, Winter Haven High School graduation, attended a ribbon cutting for the new Watson Clinic. I'm the chairman of the Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and we had a finance committee meeting, attended the funeral services for Gay Henry. And one of the most pleasant things I had, for Annie Davis, I went to Senior Center and gave her a proclamation, and then I had the privilege of going to her birthday party that she had at the Auburndale Civic Center.
Give her $100?
She didn't ask for it. But the thing that really is impressive about her is her family takes her to Publix every day. And what they do, because I observed it, they let her out in the parking lot, and she gets her walker and walks into Publix and do her shopping. I also witnessed her getting a catfish dinner. When she got to the counter, The lady said, Miss Annie Lee, you want the catfish? She said, yes. I said, Miss Annie Lee, how did she know? She said, because I get this every Friday. So, I mean, this 100-year-old lady is sharp as a tack and is still mobile, which is really, really, really a blessing only from God. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that. I also attended the little outing that we had for Florence Place and with Reverend Dollison and, the first-time home buyers class. And it really was well attended. Attended the PRWC meeting, and that's pretty much it. All right, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Commission. I don't have anything this evening other than to just publicly note that my mother-in-law just passed away last Saturday recently, and although she was from Bartow, she was very active in the water community. She served on the Peace River Basin Board and helped develop some of the important water policy matters that are being implemented certainly in Central Florida today that we all are well aware of. So just a mention of her, she was very devoted to my children and her grandchildren and her family. So we'll miss her. Thank you.
Our condolences. City Manager, I see you have an item.
I do have an item, sir. So I want to give the commission just a quick update on where things stand with the Grant and Aid Advisory Committee that you have. I continue year over year to be so impressed by this group. They do tremendous work on your behalf, and I think Mayor Pro Tem Yates, I think did you attend both meetings with them? So you got to see firsthand the deliberations they go through. I'll tell you, they draw a bigger audience than the City Commission. The chamber was filled for both of their meetings by those that applied. So just a quick recap, Grant and Aid trainings were held February 8th, 12th, and 24th. Those were required to attend one of those if you were going to apply for funds. There were 64 agencies that attended at least one of those trainings. The Grant and Aid Application Review Committee met on May 9th and for about 2 hours, and then came back for another 2-hour plus meeting on May 16th to do their work. So definitely taking the work seriously. We had dispersed to them, given them a budget of $305,000, which is consistent with what we have in the current year budget to do their work. That $305,000 does not include funds that are set aside for the Winter Haven EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, Polk Vision, Ridge Art Association, the Marching Wolverines, or Keep Winter Haven Clean and Beautiful. That money is housed elsewhere, either within my budget as city manager or within the respective departments. Total applications received was 50. 5 of those were for large single initiatives, big dollar items. Traditional grants totaled 45 applications. The committee did not recommend funding any of those large initiatives, recognizing that doing so would jeopardize the ability to impact several of the smaller applications received. The number of agencies that they have recommended for next year to be funded beginning October 1st is 32. The value of the recommendation of the awards that they're recommending is $271,000. That means that they did not expend $34,000. Kind of unique, you've given a group a pot of money and they don't distribute it all. So they are returning to you $34,000. Now, I will say that that came about after long discussion concerning 8 applications that were disqualified. These were applications that were disqualified either because an individual did not represent the agency at one of the 3 trainings that we offered, or there was some anomaly within their application, something was changed or not submitted correctly, and therefore it was removed from consideration. I will tell you that staff is working will meet with the Grant and Aid Application Review Committee in November or October maybe to review the process. One of the things that we are recommending be folded in is a period for a sufficiency review on applications so that we can negate some of that disqualification going forward. We've never done a sufficiency review period before, but we feel that, we can do that and give a one-time resubmittal of information to those folks that maybe got something wrong or didn't know what they had to do there, despite the fact that we put that in all of our training materials and everything else. I will say that what was discussed amongst that committee, and this will come back to you in the form of a fact sheet, I believe, for your June 10th meeting, is really, you have, I think, three options that you can go forward with. One is to approve the final recommendation of the Grant and Aid Review Committee with no changes. Second option would be to consider those disqualified applications and fund them proportionately in consideration of the $34,000 balance that we have available in that account. And the third would be to consider those disqualified applications and fund them based on the amounts they were awarded in the most recent year of award, which would either be 23 or 24 fiscal year. To do that would require an additional funding level of about $11,000. So, and those are some big agencies. That's Meals on Wheels, that's First Missionary Baptist Church, that's the Mission, some folks that we have historically funded that the commission may choose to make a different decision on those being disqualified. There is, as I said, $34,000 with which to work on that. So I just want to give you that update. Very proud of that group, and certainly you know who you appointed. If you have a chance to reach out and extend your appreciation to them, I'm sure they would appreciate that. And we are waiting for confirmation from them, I believe, Katrina, to who's willing to serve again. I don't know if we've gotten that fully laid out yet, but that's a 3-year term. And other than Melinda Calagritas, this was her first year. The others have all served for 3 years now on that. So we're hopeful that they will return. They know the process well, and they do a great job. So stand for any questions you may have in that regard.
So, T, do we need to make a determination?
Nothing this evening. I just wanted to give you the update so that when the fact sheet comes to you for your next meeting, you've got a little insight going into it, and it won't be as challenging to get through. And certainly we'll discuss that at your workshop.
Okay.
The other thing I'll mention is that tomorrow, myself, along with the Deputy City Manager and our Director of Public Affairs and Communication, will be out of town tomorrow through, I believe, Saturday morning for all of us, attending the Florida City County Management Association Conference in Orlando. Assistant City Manager Charlie Bird will run point for my office in my absence and able to respond to any emergencies that come forward. Certainly, I'll be available via phone and email as need be.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Got
you.
a quick question
Yes.
about the grant and aid. This is very similar to what we do with the TDC, and we're always refining the process, so I'm glad to hear that you're constantly doing that. But what provisions, I know we've talked about this, do we have to make sure people are using the money like they say they're going to use it? Do we have like a mechanism in place to go and kind of follow up, or is it all just honor system, or what?
So I'm going to ask Katrina to speak to that. We do require them to report back to us, and that's one of the things that we do review.
Yes, sir. They provide 2 reports back to us, one at 6 months in, which corresponds with when they're applying for the next year's grant, so we can see what they've done with the funding in the first half of the year, and then again at 12 months. And then we include their last 2 years of reports in with their application so that the committee can see how they're using the funds alongside considering what funds they're asking for in the future.
But it's clearly an honor system. We just believe what they say on there, and that's what we have to do with the TDC, really, where there's no way to really go out and visit these people, but you just believe.
We did have one committee member call them all this year.
Yeah, so that's kind of the unique thing. Your committee members last year they took a kind of an oath that they were going to go out and visit these sites that they weren't familiar with, and they did. And they were very, they don't hold back at all in discussing what's important to them. They did select agencies that really address those items within the United Way local needs assessment. So you're dealing with education, you're dealing with workforce skill development, you're dealing with housing, food ministries, those types of things. But it is based upon honesty and good faith. The difference between this and I believe the TDC is a reimbursement grant program where they have to show they've spent the dollars in order to get that back.
Yes.
Ours is not set up that way. Ours is a grant on the front end to go accomplish your mission, and the verification is done through some level of reporting back. It may not be beyond the realm in the future if the commission so decides to switch to a reimbursement program. That certainly gives you a much greater control over how were the funds used and did they go for the right thing. But I don't know that we're at that point just yet.
We might want to consider that. And the other thing that we do with the TDC is we don't allow it for things like vans or, physical stuff that could potentially be sold or something. Is that what we do here, or do we preclude them from buying a van or a?
We don't. In fact, we actually funded a van for a food ministry and a youth transport program a few years back. And I'm trying to think, Katrina, this year, if there was any of them that were tied to that type of
I believe one of the feeding ministries is tied to a van.
vehicle.
Again.
We fund stuff with, that's supplies and materials, Habitat for Humanity to do emergency repairs. Obviously, that's going towards raw material and tools. A lot of it's just outreach services and food ministry.
The county's just always had problems with funding things that could potentially be sold. Turn around and put it back on the market and sell it for something, like a car. But anyway, that's just the county. No problem.
The Safety Advisory Committee, is that still, the Safety Advisory, do we still have?
We're working on a resolution to bring to the commission at the second meeting in June to address that by way of a resolution that will then allow us to comport with the new state law.
They are not meeting anymore until all that has been addressed, so.
Right. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Deputy City Manager,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
City Clerk. All right. Emergency matters not received for the agenda. Motion to adjourn.